Hey guys, it's me, Seren, back with another video. Um, apologize. I'm gonna apologize in advance because I know this video is gonna be really long. This is gonna be my video about white people. um, so yes, hopefully you guys enjoy it. I said last week I was gonna put it up. I didn't get it up Friday, but I'm gonna get it up today. Um, and I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you guys learn a lot, and yeah, see you at the end. So basically, as you guys know, a few weeks ago, I made a series of rant videos, which I will link, where basically I was just kind of ranting about how white people, like, they don't live in reality, and they have no idea of what racism really is. And in the video, I kind of wondered about just, like, what the fuck is wrong with them, basically. And how I just think that they're all fucking nuts. Like, they're all crazy. And a commenter responded that I should go watch Dr. Joy DeGruy's lectures on post-traumatic slave syndrome, where she discusses some of the same type of topics. So I did, and she's brilliant. And it's funny because I had never seen any of her lectures, but I had seen her in some other places, and I had just kind of like forgot and like not made the connection until that commenter recommended her. So thank you again, commenter. I've been mulling, and this was like weeks ago, and like ever since then I've kind of been mulling over how to make a video about her, because there's so much information in her lectures, and I really feel like I can only tell you to go watch it for yourselves. But after the Oklahoma SAE incident, which is really, the most recent in a long line of racially motivated incidents, painted as the work of individual racists, and not part of a larger pattern of racism, I felt compelled to make this video, and last week's video, not just SAE. So similar to my On White Male Rage video, where I describe how a combination of both gender and racial privilege has imbued white men with a very specific sense of entitlement. I feel like, in a similar sense, a long history of ingrained concepts of white supremacy and white superiority have made all white people racist. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat that. All white people are racist. I know some of you are going to be turning off your computers right now. Ta-ta, bitch. All white people are racist. And me personally, I generally assume that all white people are racist until they prove otherwise to me. I know I'm going to have commenters that are like, well, that's prejudice, and you're the real racist, and So I'm going to go ahead and address that now. It is not prejudiced to say that all white people are racist, because it has been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that we are living in a racist, white supremacist society. Okay? Now you can believe that or not believe that. That's your prerogative. But it's been proven that we are living in a racist and also sexist, white supremacist society. This means that every single white person born into said racist, white supremacist society is indoctrinated practically, from birth with certain ideas about race. Through it, be it through, unconscious biases or implicit biases or, outright, just straight up, no holds barred racism. And every single white person, even you that thinks you're the cool white person, born into this society holds certain ideas about white supremacy until a certain point in life when they become aware of this and hopefully begin to work to unlearn it. All of you. Every single white person. There are no exceptions, and that's not prejudice, because prejudice by definition is a prejudgment, or a forming of an opinion before becoming aware of the relevant facts. All right. I'm clearly not talking about that. I have formed my informed opinion. It is an informed opinion, and it is based off of facts. What I'm saying is fact. We live in a racist, white supremacist society. All white people born into that society are a product of their environment. They are all racist until they reach a certain point where they become aware of this and hopefully work to unlearn it. That's everyone. That's all of you. Every single last one. So now I know that some of you are going to have this, knee-jerk reaction to the word racism. Like I'm saying all white people want to, like, eat black babies and, like, feed them to alligators, which white people did do. Please go Google it. So, they would use black babies as alligator bait to catch alligators in Florida. I'll include a link if you guys want to read it. They really did do that. I'm not just saying that, they really did it. So I just want to make it crystal clear that I don't think all white people are bad or evil. I might say all the time, like, white people are demons and I fucking hate them and this and that. And that's normally me speaking out of rage or anger or some type of emotion because of something that has happened. But I don't think that every single white person on the planet is bad or evil. No. I just believe that all white people suffer from the disease of racism. And honestly, that's all of us. And black people, it manifests a little differently, like with colorism, which I did make my video about last week or whenever that was. With us, it manifests a little differently with colorism, but with white people, it's like straight up racism. Like, y'all suffer from the disease of racism. You live in a white supremacist racist society that instills in you from birth the belief that you're better than everyone else. And it also, insulates you from race-based stress and provides you, as white people, with a fantasy world to retreat to in order to avoid confronting their own racism. This is a concept which I've talked about previously that's called white fragility. And it's a whole society that was created to really perpetuate, the cycles of white supremacy and the idea of white supremacy. And you guys can just retreat. You can turn on the TV at any moment and watch an all-white show. You can go to the movies at any moment and watch an all-white movie. You can pick up a book and read an all-white book. Studies have shown that 70 to 80% of white people have an all-white circle, which means they go to all-white schools, which means they work at all-white jobs. Every person in their family is white. You can go to certain places in the country and still in 2015 meet white people that have never, ever, ever met or seen a black person in real life. Okay? Our whole society contributes to this concept of white supremacy and white superiority, and all white people, are a product of this environment, all of you. So in addition to white fragility, white people also benefit from concepts of, white skin privilege. Period. I have people that always want to argue with me about this. There is no argument. You don't have a leg to stand on. White people benefit from white skin privilege. They're treated better, they go to better schools, they eat better food, they get better jobs, and they have disproportionately better wealth and health than black people. This includes poor whites. A dirt poor white person. Studies show that they statistically still have better chances than a rich upper class black person, okay? Because no one knows that the upper class black person is upper class just by looking at them. All they see is black skin, and black skin is inherently in this country and in other countries around the world linked to being poor, to being criminal, to all these different stereotypes. You could have someone that's dirt poor going to, the store in Belgium where Oprah Winfrey tried to buy the bag. And if they're white and they're dressed a certain way, they're not going to get any pushback. They could be fucking poor as hell. Everything they have on could be stolen, but they're not going to get any pushback because they're white. Meanwhile, you have Oprah, who's a fucking billionaire, who's going to get pushback because she's black. White people, you have white skin privilege. This is not debatable. I'm not debating this with people. People love to argue with me about privilege as if it's debatable, but it's not. Every white person living in a country that has been colonized by white people, where whites are the dominant group, which is a lot of motherfucking countries, y'all all benefit from white skin privilege, but especially here in the United States. Here in the United States specifically, white people benefit from being white in a society that was built off of slavery and the denigration of one race for the advancement of another, okay? You benefit from entire systems created to maintain that sense of superiority. And there have been countless studies that prove this beyond a shadow of a doubt. So to attempt to say otherwise, black people and white people, is to just be in a complete state of denial. You have your heads buried in the sand, your children, you have childish logic, and all you, but I don't have privilege, I actually had to get a job when I was 15, I don't have privilege. All y'all white folks can just, If y'all didn't leave when I said you're all racist, y'all can go ahead and dip out now. Don't let the knob hit your booty when the door closed, okay? So moving on. Basically, in her lectures, Dr. Joy DeGruy asks, what happens to a person that has spent years, essentially, they've been living detached from reality, and they've been living in a bubble of privilege. What happens after they spend years and decades and then centuries that way? And her post-traumatic slave syndrome theory posits that, not only are Black people essentially dealing with centuries of unhealed trauma from being oppressed, but also that white people are dealing with centuries of unexamined pathology from being the oppressor. Which when I got to that part of the lecture, I had to pause it and go sit quietly in the dark for a while to just process, because I had never really thought about it. I had started thinking about it, which is why I made that rant video. So to hear some really complex, in-depth theories, really, it was like having an epiphany, what does happen when you have centuries of unexamined pathology from oppressing other people, White people literally have centuries of oppression under their belts, centuries of rape, centuries of murder, centuries of pillaging, centuries of plundering, centuries of committing acts of genocide, centuries of committing literal crimes against humanity, wiping out whole entire cultures and civilizations, going back to even before, American chattel slavery with Manifest Destiny and the White Man's Burden, and, coming to the Americas and just completely obliterating the indigenous populations. White people are the ones that even created the whole concept of race in the 1700s, right? And then race was used as a tool, to dominate people and to oppress them, and to escape the dissonance that was created by brutalizing other human beings, and Dr. Joy talks a lot about dissonance, as I mentioned in my other video. Cognitive dissonance, which is basically that uncomfortable feeling that you get when you're doing something wrong or hypocritical. White people create a lot of dissonance in their actions, and they're trying to move away from it, but they can't. Everything they do only creates more and more dissonance, it's like a vicious cycle, right? And Dr. Joy says that, the first thing you must do to remove dissonance is you must justify your behavior. So what do? You create the concept of race. Oh, okay. So in I want to say it was 1721, some white guy, I can't think of his name right now. Dr. Joy talks extensively about him in her lectures. They call him the modern father of anthropology and shit like that. He basically traveled all over the world and said, okay, there's 4 races: white, Black, Asian, and Native. Just the native, the various native people that he saw. And then he goes on to say that, and then he went on to kind of give each different race these different characteristics. None of it was based on any type of science. He basically just made this shit up. And this is, stuff that we're still hearing, today. It really became ingrained in our culture and within our society. He said that whites or Caucasians, he called them Caucasians because when he traveled to Caucasus, the mountains of Caucasus, he felt like the people there were extremely beautiful and that they were the most beautiful people ever. So and they were white, so he called them Caucasians. And then he went on to say, surely civilization started here in the mountains of Caucasus in Europe, when actually, no, bitch. Civilization started in East Africa. Check your facts. Anyways, so he goes on to give white people and Black people and Asians and Natives all these different characteristics. White people are amazing, they're wonderful, they're beautiful, they're glorious, they're smart, they're this, they're that. Oh, but those niggas, man, they are lazy, they are dirty, they are criminal, they are lustful, and those fucking Asians, man, all they do is fucking sit around and think all day. They are overly critical, they are overly this, they are overly that. Fucking those natives, they lazy as shit. They don't want to do nothing. They just want to sit around all day and do nothing. And these are things that you will still hear echoed today in 2015 from the 1700s all the way to today, right? Anyways. So like I was saying, Dr. Joy says that the first thing you must do to remove cognitive dissonance is you must justify your behavior. The second thing you must do, once you have justified your behavior, is you have to relabel the people you are oppressing in a way that justifies your behavior towards them. So now you've justified your behavior. Well, they're just black. And, you know, blacks are slaves. They're not human. They're less than human. They're animals. They're lazy. They're soulless. They don't have souls. They can't feel anything. They're criminals. You know, they went out of their way to dehumanize us in order to make what they were doing to us acceptable. But as I said, the more you go, it was like the more they went out of their way to dehumanize us and debase us to get away from dissonance, the more dissonance they ended up creating. They just kept on creating more dissonance, more dissonance. Because when you dehumanize someone in order to abuse them in such a way as to enslave them, murder them, and rape them, you are dehumanizing yourself. You have essentially stripped yourself of your own humanity. Okay? And here we are in 2015, and white people have stripped themselves of their humanity. They don't have it. They've stripped themselves of the ability to feel, especially for black people, but mostly for anyone that's not white. They cannot feel. It has been proven statistically that white people lack empathy for others that are not white, and they have, you know, trouble feeling. They don't feel it. They literally, over centuries, bred the humanity out of themselves. And I 100% mean that, you know? Because how can a person watch a lynching and feel nothing, right? How can these white people watch a 12-year-old black boy, Tamir Rice, be shot in the stomach and feel nothing? And to even go one step further, but to blame the child for getting shot, or to leave some type of, you know, nasty, racist comment that's supposedly a joke, you know, and as we see, or to make, you know, excuses to explain away a group of 19 and 20 and 21-year-old white boys thinking about how they want to lynch niggers, okay, when lynchings caused 4,000 deaths, all right, during the Great Migration. How in 2015 can white people sit there and say and do those things because they don't feel? They don't feel for me. They don't feel for you, black person. They don't feel it. It's literally been bred out of them over the course of hundreds of years of violence. And Dr. Joy theorizes that they can't feel because if they could feel, what would they feel, right? Knowing what they've done, they'd fucking crack. Okay, white fragility. They've been so insulated from race-based stress and living in this fucking world of denial that they will probably snap, the majority of them, you know? White people have well over 500 years of pathology and emotional baggage that they're not dealing with, you know? 500 years of basically oppressing and brutalizing other human beings. And Dr. Joy also theorizes that in addition to stripping themselves of their own humanity through their oppression of black people, that they have also developed an appetite for brutality. And this is the part that really struck me in her lecture. You know, she says, you know, they've developed an appetite for brutality. They've developed an appetite for oppression. They've developed a voracious appetite for racism. They hunger for it. They yearn for it. And what happens to an appetite for like that? You know, what happens to an appetite for brutality? What happens when you can rape, torture, murder, and beat someone to death for hundreds of years and then just buy another one, right? That you could lynch a man, burn his body, cut off his genitals, and display them on a mantle or a postcard and not be seen as savage or uncivilized. Where does the savagery go? Right? Where does that taste for blood? Hundreds of years. Hundreds. Where does that go? Where do you guys think that went after slavery? Centuries and centuries of pathology don't just go away because, you know, in the last 100 years we've decided that that kind of behavior is unacceptable. You know, where does it go? Where does it go? People love to say that if we just stop talking about racism, it'll go away, which is nonsense, because where does it go? Where can it go? It'll just disappear? No, it just mutated into something else. And it's funny because Dr. Joy theorizes that at least 5% of the police population are sadistic psychopaths and sociopaths that deliberately signed up because of this taste, this appetite for brutality. And that's millions of people. 5%? 5% of every police force in the country? You know, racism is a pathology. It's a disease. It's a mental illness. You know, YouTuber Tuskegee, she has a great video where she's talking about, you know, if you get cancer and you go to the doctor and the doctor's like, oh, I'm so sorry you have cancer, and you say, what are we gonna do? And the doctor says, we're just gonna not talk about it and hope it goes away. She would look at the doctor like, this nigga right here, like, you know. And racism is a mental illness. It's a disease. You know, it is. It's taught. It's a disease that's handed down. You know, Albert Einstein called racism a disease of white people. You know, that's been, you know, embedded and woven into the fabric of our society. It's been handed down. I don't believe that babies are born racist. Babies don't know any. A baby knows who picks him up, who puts him down, who feeds him, who hugs him, who takes care of him. You know, as we saw for years and years, you had black women that were the nursemaids and the nannies and the this and the that, and there was the baby was like, whoa, you have black skin, like, don't touch me. Like, no, like, racism is a learned illness. It is a learned illness, and it's been developed and refined over the years, and it's mutated. It's mutated to keep up with the time, okay? Because that type of oppression and that type of brutality and that type of savagery and that type of mental illness doesn't just go away, you know? Oppression is a disease that has to be treated. So assuming that it's just going to go away is preposterous. You know, that type of pathology doesn't go away. You have to treat it, you know? And whenever we discuss racist incidents, there's always an insistence that it's an isolated act. You know, it's a random act of racism, like how they say it was a random act of violence. It was a random act of racism, you know? And it's not part of any type of larger systemic issues with racism in this country, right? And so, for example, SAEOU gets to be about a few bad apples instead of about a widespread system of racism across the country, because how do you dismantle an entire system? How do you dismantle an entire system? You know? People love to say, like, oh, my hometown used to be racist, but it's not anymore. We've gotten so much better. How did you get so much better? You think all those people just fucking packed up and moved away and disappeared and took their pathology with them? Racism doesn't disappear. Just because it became wrong or taboo to do racist things publicly or to talk about people using racial slurs does not mean that racist sentiment disappeared, okay? Racism is a pathology within white people, and pathology doesn't go away overnight. There has to be years and years of work to get into understanding pathology. And it's funny because when we're talking about bipolar disorder or multiple personality disorder or narcissistic personality disorder, no one would ever say, it'll go away. It'll disappear. Let's just wait. Let's just wait and see. No, we treat it. But with racism and the particular pathology of racism that is a part of white culture and is ingrained within white American culture, people just wave it away like it's just going to go away, you know? And it's funny also because white people love to talk about black culture this and black culture that and black culture is so bad and blah, 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 blah. But they refuse to talk about white culture and the pathology of racism that is the core of white American culture. People ask me, what is white culture? I say white culture is brutality. White culture is oppression. White culture is rape, it's genocide, it's murder. Brutality and racism is ingrained in white culture. It is white culture. And since they are the dominant group in this country, and I don't care about how much influence niggas have on music or fashion or pop culture, because in terms of wealth and health, whites are still the dominant social group. Don't get it twisted. It is ingrained. Racism and brutality and pathology are ingrained within our dominant American culture because that is white culture. Look at the movies. Look at the video games, okay? Whites love violence. They love it. They love it. And they can't hang niggas anymore, so they're going to find it somewhere else. You understand what I'm saying? You know? And I know I'm going to have people that want to argue with me about this. I'm not going to argue because while this is my opinion, it is my informed opinion. And it is based off of facts and statistics. And it's not debatable. And I'm not debating with any of you because I'm right. And if you don't agree, I don't give a fuck. It's true. What I'm saying is true. It's supported by research, and it's been proven time and time again. Like I said earlier, we can all for the most part admit that we are living in a racist, white supremacist society. So it's really only natural to come to the conclusion that that must mean that all white people are racists because they're simply a product of their environment. Right? Yet when you say that, it gets people's backs up, even black people, because nobody wants to be labeled a racist. No white person wants to be labeled a racist. White people, I read this really funny quote that said, like, white people care more about being labeled a racist than actually fighting racism. Like, it's not a big deal. Just like how when your parents, I mean, it is a big deal, but, you know, just like how when your parents tell you, like, oh, if you did something wrong, just admit it. You won't get in as much trouble if you admit it, and then we, like, work on it. It's the same thing. Admit it. Fucking admit it. Admit it, white people. And black people, too. Admit that your white girlfriend or your white boyfriend is probably a racist, you know, because it gets black people's backs up too, you know, and Dr. Joy has some really great theories about that as well, you know. She says that she's able to continuously feel for white people and their emotions because she still retains her humanity unlike them. You know, I have a quote written here where she says, since I still retain my humanity, I can imagine how hard it is for them. But at the same time, I'm angry that I have empathy for white people, right? We have empathy for them. We have empathy for them. Black people have empathy for everyone. Black people have empathy and sympathy for everyone. We want to let everybody come be in our club. That's why it's so crazy to me when people be like, oh, black people are racist. Black people don't want to let people do this. They don't want to let people do that. Like, no, I'm sorry. We try to fucking be nice to everyone because we do know what it's like to be excluded, and we do still retain our humanity, all right? And I feel like we fucking care about other people too much in some instances, especially white people, because in addition to retaining our humanity and therefore our ability to feel for others, black people have also been conditioned to maintain white fragility. We've been conditioned to worry about white feelings. We've been conditioned to go out of our way to be nice to white people, to make sure that white people are comfortable, and to continue to insulate them from race-based stress, because you know what happens if white people get upset. Used to be a lynching, now it's a police shooting, all right? And black people are experts at appropriate adaptation, which is when you adjust your behavior for survival in a hostile environment. Y'all niggas know what is code switching. Yeah, that has a fucking real-life scientific social science term, appropriate adaptation. Black people have this urge to make white people comfortable because we have been trained for centuries to adjust our behavior in a hostile environment. And that hostile environment was the plantation, and then it was, you know, the cop car, and then it was, you know, during Jim Crow, it was at the lunch counters, it was this, it was that. We go out of our way to make white people comfortable. We take all the responsibility for white people's wrongs, and they just give it to us. They just give it to us because, you know, they've been trained too. White fragility. We're still in our same servant master roles. Still, a lot of us are still in those roles, you know. We've been conditioned to feel for them. I read this apologetic ass letter recently, letter to my white friends, that some fucking poor black coon ass nigga wrote and posted on the internet recently, you know, and it appalled me, but it made me so sad at the same time, because it's like, here's a man that feels so deeply for other human beings, people that have literally developed an appetite for the blood of his kind. Here's someone that's been so conditioned to make white people comfortable that he wrote an entire essay about how he's sorry, how he apologizes to white people for all the black people who stare at his poor white friends, who are mean to them, who treat them unfairly because of the actions of a few bad white people, right? For all the black people out there that say, you guys shouldn't say whites smell like wet dog. How would you feel if white people were prejudiced to you? How are you any better than a white person? it's only a few bad white people out there. Like, no, nigga. Not only is it more than just a few bad white people, because we're talking about entire systems here. Have any of you fucking seen open letters of apology from whites to blacks? Have any of you seen any fucking acknowledgement of what they've done and continue to do to us? Like, we can't even get these fucking white asses to fucking admit that SAEOU was racist. Instead, they're trying to find a way to attempt to blame it on rap music. And we're just there right along with, oh, I'm so sorry, white person. Oh, I'm so sorry, massa. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We're still doing it. We want to make them feel better. Because everything in this society revolves around white people and their white feelings. I could come up with so many examples of this conditioning, okay? Fucking Eric Stryker, the captain of the Oklahoma football team, gave a statement where he said the same thing. You know, me and my teammates have been subjected to so much racism on campus of people calling us the N-word and people, saying that we're going to date rape their white girlfriends, not wanting to invite us to the white parties. And, but then he ended the interview saying, some responsibility falls on the African-American community to stop freely using the N-word. We need to straighten up and stop using the word, period. And it's just like, what does that have to do with these white kids sing about lynching niggers from trees? What does that have to do with them saying that they can't let you in the white frat party because you're going to rape one of the white girls? What does it have to do with it? Nothing. 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 And I feel that way all the fucking time because it's not about us, black people. This is what I need you guys to understand, and then I'm going to close up this video because this video is so long. It's not about us, black people. This is the video about white people because racism is about white people. It's not about us wearing hoodies. It's not about us saying nigga. It's not about us respecting ourselves, motherfucking ass Kendrick Lamar, who I have a rant on my other channel about that nigga if y'all want to see it. It's not about the myth of black on black crime, which is a myth because all crime is based off of race and neighborhood, and blacks do not kill a disproportionate number of other blacks. It's not about that. It's not about messed up communities. It's not about not having fathers. It's not about any of those issues which are issues in the black community. Are they issues in the black community? Yes, but they have nothing, literally nothing to do with racism. What is the connection between white people singing about lynching niggas from trees and a rap song? Or me calling my husband a nigga? There is no connection. There is no parallel. There is nothing. That has nothing to do with racism. Absolutely nothing. It's a distraction. Okay? And the next time someone brings up issues in the black community as being somehow the cause of racism, I want you guys to really truly understand that it's a deflection and ask them straight up, but what does that have to do with racism? Ask them. Ask them. The next time y'all are talking about police brutality and a white person says, but black on black crime, I want you to say, look them dead in their face and say, but what does that have to do with racism? And watch them start motherfucking stuttering. What does that have to do with racism? So now you're blaming racism on the black community? Susan, I don't understand. And watch them fucking stutter. Just like how the hashtag fucking rap albums that caused slavery took off after the media attempted to blame the whole SAE shit on rap music. It's the same mindset that we are somehow responsible for our own oppression. It's dissonance. They have to believe it because deep down they know. They know that everything I'm saying to you right now in this video is true. Dead ass. Okay? Because you could be from the nicest community. You could have the nicest suit on. You could have the most accolades, the most education, driving a nice car, came from a two-parent home. You could be half white like Tony Robinson. You could be Barack Obama. You could be Martin Luther King and respect yourself. You will still be Mr. Nigga to white people that are racist. You will still be the target of police brutality, vigilantism, or just plain angry white citizens with guns. You will still suffer from systemic racism, black people. You will still have to deal with being called racial slurs, black people. You will still have almost a 50% chance of going to prison, black men, compared to like a 20% chance for white people that commit more violent crimes and do more drugs and have more drug offenses. You will still have a lesser chance of getting a job call back, black people, even when your white counterpart is dirt poor and uneducated, because it's not about us. Stop letting these white people trick you into believing that it's about you and what you're doing and what you're doing wrong and how you need to make them feel better so they won't be racist to you. It's about white people. This is the video about white people. Alright? It's not about us. It's about them. It's about white people. It's their choice. It's their choice to feel it. It's their choice to try to work against centuries of pathology and to rehumanize themselves. And some do. Some do. Some wake up. Jon Stewart, clearly. Russell Brand, clearly. I have some white subscribers that get it. But the only way for racism to truly go away is for all, every last one, all white people to admit that they are all racist. That racism is a byproduct of living in a society built off of oppression, and to collectively decide to stop participating in it. And to work, really do the work, to equalize the system in a society that still hasn't dealt with the trauma and the tragic effects of slavery and the genocide against the Native Americans. We need to have some major societal shifts and a general acceptance of what built our society and what is still making people racist to this day. Okay? That is what has to be done to end racism. Nothing that any black person can do. Nothing. You can only be you. That's nothing that you can do. Okay? Nothing. Just like I said in my video about, do your work. Racism and all the shit that they try to tell you is a distraction from you just being the best person you could be, because it's not about you, it's about them. And I tell people all the time, they say, well, you do this and you say this. You ever thought about if you did this and this, white people? It's not my job to fucking do X, Y, and Z to make white people feel more comfortable. I don't give a fuck about how a white person looks at me, what they think about me, what they say, because I know that's not about me. It's about them. I can't do anything to change a white person's mind. Pathology is ingrained within the culture. Okay? Dr. Joy talks about social learning theory in both blacks and whites. And social learning theory is when you learn from the people in your environment. Okay? She feels like blacks have been learning certain behaviors and certain traumas that have been passed down since slavery, and whites have been learning pathology. They've been learning racism. Until they admit that, it's not going anywhere. These are not isolated incidents. They're part of a larger pattern. It's woven into the fabric of our society. It's all white people. Yes, all white people. The fucking funny ass tag. Yes, white culture. It's all of y'all. And until you admit it, it's not going not a damn anywhere. It's not going anywhere. So black people, stop fucking worrying about it. Stop apologizing. Stop coddling these white people. Stop writing open letters. Just stop. Stop worrying about you saying the N-word. Just stop. Just do whatever you fucking want to do. Because fucking trying to please them is not going to get you nowhere. And that's all I got to say. I know this video is so long. This is the longest video I've ever made. So sorry. And hopefully you guys liked it, and hopefully you guys learn, and I'll include links to all Joy DeGrasse stuff. Please go watch it, because it's really, really amazing stuff. And see you guys next time. Thank you for watching. Food for thought as always. Peace.